All right, everyone, get ready. Because today we're diving headfirst into a world you might not expect Chinese wine.
Yeah, it's a fascinating world full of surprises.
And we've got a ton to uncover in this deep dive, right from ancient roots to modern innovations.
Ah,
I, for one, am ready to be wowed.
you and me both. Get this, we're talking about a winemaking tradition that goes back further than some of the heavy hitters in Europe.
Seriously. Okay, now you've got my attention.
I'm talking about vineyards dating back to the Han Dynasty. That's centuries of experience, folks.
Centuries. Wow. But this isn't just a history lesson, is it? I have a feeling China's making moves in the wine world right now.
You'd be absolutely right. There's one region in particular that's been turning heads. Ningxia.
Ningxia. Okay, that's ringing a bell. Something about it being comparable to, like, Bordeaux.
You heard right. Picture this, a valley tucked between the Yellow River and these incredible Heelan Mountains. That's Ningxia. And that unique geography creates these microclimates, little pockets where the grapes get the perfect amount of sun, the perfect temperature. It's incredible.
So every glass is like a snapshot of the land itself.
Exactly. And the best part, it's not just hype. Ningxia's Cabernet Sauvignons have been cleaning up at international competitions, even the Decanter World Wine Awards.
Decanter. No way. That's a huge deal.
Tells you everything you need to know. China's not just here to play, they're setting a new standard.
I'm officially intrigued. So how does this all come together, from the vine to the actual bottle? What's the story?
So we've got this perfect storm of history, terroir, and modern techniques. But what's happening on the ground? Paint me a picture of the Chinese winemaking process. It's fascinating, really. You see this beautiful blend of time-honored traditions and cutting-edge technology in every bottle.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Give me an example.
Well, for starters, many wineries still handpick their grapes. This meticulous approach ensures that only the highest quality grapes make it into the fermentation tanks.
It's like each grape is treated like a tiny treasure. I bet that makes a difference in the final product.
It absolutely does. But it goes beyond just tradition. Chinese winemakers are also embracing sustainable practices, understanding that healthy vineyards mean even better wines.
I've noticed that more and more these days. Consumers are becoming increasingly conscious of what's in their glass and how it's made.
You're right, it's a trend that's here to stay. And Chinese winemakers are leading the charge. We're seeing a rise in organic and biodynamic vineyards, where they work in harmony with nature, minimizing their environmental impact.
Biodynamic. I've heard that term thrown around, but what does that actually look like in practice?
Essentially, it takes organic farming a step further. They view the vineyard as a living ecosystem, using special preparations with natural materials and following lunar cycles to enhance soil fertility and vine health. It's a holistic approach.
It sounds incredibly intricate. Now, I'm picturing small, family-run vineyards carefully tending to their vines. But I know China has a huge population. Are there also large-scale wineries in the mix?
Absolutely. Take, for instance, Chenyu Pioneer Wine Company. They're actually one of the biggest wine producers globally, crafting wines for a wide audience.
Wow, that's incredible. Talk about covering all the bases. So you have these massive producers, but then also smaller wineries focusing on limited edition boutique wines.
Precisely. That's what makes exploring Chinese wine so exciting. It's a world of contrasts where ancient traditions meet modern technology and where there's a wine for every palate and budget.
Speaking of palate, you mentioned Cabernet Sauvignon earlier. Are those the typical grapes you'd find in Chinese wines, or are we talking about something a little more unexpected? So there's more than meets the eye with these Chinese wine style. Like, what kind of unique flavors are we talking about here?
Oh, get ready to be surprised. We're talking over 100 indigenous grape varieties, each one with its own distinct personality.
Over 100. All right, you got to give me the highlights. Which ones should I be on the lookout for?
Yeah. Well, one that always piques people's interest is Longyan, which translates to, get this, dragon's eye grape.
Dragon's Eye. Okay, that alone has me sold. Is there a story there?
Picture this, a grape so plump and juicy it looks like the eye of a mythical dragon. Pretty cool, right? And it's used to make these incredible sweet wines with notes of honey and lychee, often enjoyed during special occasions.
So not just a unique flavor, it's tied to the culture too. Love it. What else you got?
Another interesting one, Marcelin, it's actually a hybrid grape, a cross between Cabernet Sauvignon and Grenache, and it's found a perfect home in China, particularly those warmer regions.
So even with the classics, there's innovation. What makes Marcelin such a good fit for the Chinese climate?
Adaptability. It ripens really reliably, even with those unpredictable weather swings. Plus, it creates wines with this beautiful, deep color, rich tannins, and complex aromas, think blackberries, spice, even a little licorice.
That sounds like a winner in my book.
Yeah.
Any other standouts before we move on to actually, tasting these incredible wines?
One more you might find interesting, Cabernet Garnished. People often mistake it for Cabernet Franc, but trust me, it's got its own thing going on. Intense aromas of violets, blackcurrant, and a hint of spice. But here's the kicker. It changes depending on where it's grown. A real chameleon in the world of wine.
Okay, you've got me convinced I need to try these wines. But how do I even begin to taste and appreciate them? It's a whole new world.
It's all about engaging those senses and coming in with an open mind. First things first. Take a look at the wine. Is it a pale, straw-like color, like a Riesling, or maybe a deep ruby red, like a Cabernet Sauvignon?
Okay, so we're starting with our eyes. What's next?
Now give it a little swirl and take a deep breath in. Every grape variety is going to have its own unique aroma profile. Remember that longing we talked about? You might get delicate florals, a touch of honey, maybe even a hint of spice.
I'm already imagining it.
And finally, the best part, the taste. Take a sip, let the wine coat your palate. What do you taste? Is it dry or sweet? How's the acidity? Can you pick up on those black fruits and spices we discussed?
This is making me realize there's so much to consider with every sip. Is there a right way to do this, or is it all subjective?
Personal preference is huge, but a good rule of thumb is to start with the lighter-bodied wines and work your way up to the fuller-bodied ones. That way, you can really experience the nuances of each one. And don't overthink it. The most important thing is to enjoy the experience.
You've given us so much to think about today. The history, those unique grapes, even how to taste. It's clear that Chinese wine is more than just a drink, it's an experience. So what's the final takeaway here? Should we all be running out to grab a bottle of Chinese wine?
Absolutely. Next time you're out and about, give Chinese wine a try. Don't take our word for it. Experience it for yourself. Who knows? You might discover your new favorite wine. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. And there you have it, folks, another deep dive in the books. We'll see you next time, ready to uncork even more fascinating stories from the world of wine.